NATO has now told AlJazeera it has no plans to intervene, but is preparing for all eventualities. Barnaby Phillips has the latest.
A no-fly zone over Libya's skies, enforced above all by America's military might. It sounds simple: fighter jets, monitoring or AWACS aircraft, and electronic surveillance to stop the Libyan Air Force from bombing rebel forces or civilians. In practice, it may not be so simple.
An abstract no-fly zone, when you're just simply not allowing military aircraft to not pass through, that doesn't actually help prevent bloodshed on the ground. So a no-fly zone without it being coupled by military strikes is quite futile.
Information on Libya's air defences is hard to come by, but according to recent research by one analyst, there are some 30 surface-to-air missile sites, most on the heavily populated coast. So how do you hit them without risking civilian casualties? And what about the history of these operations? During the first Gulf War, a no-fly zone was created in northern Iraq. Later, it was extended to the south. It helped protect Kurdish and Shia populations from Saddam Hussein's air force. Then a no-fly zone was established in Bosnia. It restricted Serbian forces, but didn't prevent the killing of 8,000 people in the Srebrenica massacre. There are political as well as practical problems. At the UN, Russia and China are wary of deeper involvement, whilst after the fiasco of the Iraq War, some Western military planners are cautious.
NATO is definitely not looking to intervene in Libya. We have asked our military to conduct necessary planning to be prepared for all eventualities, but we have not taken any operational decision.
Western countries will want to know how much support there is for a no-fly zone in the Arab world, and defence chiefs will be warning that even a supposedly limited operation can have unpredictable consequences. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera.
Well, earlier I spoke to military analyst Justin Crump, and Justin believes there is indeed very mixed support for a no-fly zone.
The Libyan rebels themselves have said we're on the whole, and they're a fractured bunch as far as we understand, but on the whole they seem to be very much calling for support for a no-fly zone. Some even saying we don't want a UN resolution, we just want it now, get rid of these aircraft. Now I think that plays out into the wider Arab world, but the problem with that of course is the US influence once more. Another Western crusader air campaign as it could be portrayed, inevitable casualties on the ground. It plays to Gaddafi's core constituency. And it plays, to other people in the Arab world who want to portray things in a negative light.
That was military analyst Justin Crump. Now it's time to go back to Doha and join Laura.
Stephen, thank you very much. Well, success for protesters in Tunisia as the party of the deposed President Ben Ali is formally dissolved by a court order. We'll have more on that later in the show. Plus,
views of Space Shuttle Discovery as it bears down on the Kennedy Space Center. The two air data.
Space Shuttle Discovery ends its final mission as the world's most traveled spacecraft.
Thank you.
Oh no! It's an astonishing moment.
We are globally yours.
It's the right ingredients and just the right amount. It's 729 layers and several well-spent hours. It's when 1 degree too high is too high. 1 minute too long is just too long. And then you remember, this is just the appetizer. A 5-star menu on board Qatar Airways. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
Welcome back. Top stories here on Al Jazeera. In Bin Jawad in Libya, rebel forces are in the town centre, pushing Gaddafi forces to the west of the city. These are the latest pictures from there. Well, earlier the Libyan government had said that it had taken back the coastal town after heavy shelling there. Gaddafi's forces have also launched multiple airstrikes on the oil city of Ras Lanouf. Meanwhile, the Libyan leader also appears to be on a diplomatic offensive. Planes carrying senior government officials from Tripoli have landed in Lisbon, Cairo and Brussels. There's been no official confirmation of the purpose of the various visits. Well, let's get an update now from Jackie Rowland, who's in AlJazeera for us. So, Jackie, earlier you were near the scenes of that heavy shelling and those airstrikes near Ras Lanouf. So, talk us through the kind of state of play there now.
Well, what we're quite clearly witnessing is a counter-offensive by pro-Gaddafi forces. The rebels had, a few days ago, appeared to be making headway in the east of Libya. There were a couple of days where they almost had the impression that the road was lying wide open all the way to Sirte. That very evidently is not the case. We've known in the last couple of days that there's been heavy fighting around the town of Bin Jawad. What we witnessed ourselves today at very close hand, too close hand really, was the fact that Gaddafi forces are using a combination of air power and also troops on the ground to really test the positions of the rebels in the east, attacking them from the sky, also attacking them from mortar fire on the ground. It appears very clear that the Gaddafi forces are not willing to tolerate any further advance by the rebels, and also appear to be preparing even to attempt to take back territory held by the rebel forces.
So is it your impression that the Gaddafi forces are essentially consolidating any gains that they're making and the momentum has gone away from the rebel fighters?
The rebel fighters still have momentum, they still have energy, and they still have very clear determination. I have to say that my experience just 1 kilometre from the front line during the afternoon today showed me that the rebel forces, certainly those at the very front line, probably have more skill and experience than we had previously given them credit for. They were able to move multiple rocket launchers into position and to take aim at Gaddafi mortar launchers. It would also appear from the position that we were in and our ability to observe the pro-Gaddafi forces firing mortars from very close to that oil storage depot, which has been hit by the warplanes.